Bananas are Australian. This podcast is brought to you by Golgotha, a historical murder mystery set in the First World War trenches and based around true events. When the rumours of a murdered soldier that had been found crucified in no man's land sweeps the Allied trenches, this threatens an army-wide rebellion. One soldier from each nation's army is pulled from the ranks to join a team to investigate this crime, and what they discover will change the course of the war. Golgotha is available at Odyssey Books and on Amazon. Now in school we're all taught that potatoes, pumpkins and tobacco originated in South America and were carried to Europe by the Spanish, while maize was from North America and grains like wheat from the Middle East. Every region on the earth had its own plants and animals that were found useful, cultivated and eventually taken, adding to a growing world cuisine. So, what was Australia's contribution to this planetary table? Sure, there's eucalyptus oil and macadamia nuts. But even today, the latter are rare and considered a luxury item. There is, however, another planetary staple that originated in Australia, and it's a real doozy. Now, I originally thought of several smarty pants titles for this article, but I kept coming back to the astonishing, simple fact that bananas are Australian. They're a truly wondrous fruit. The plant genus Musa includes around 70 species of bananas and plantains, and though they are harvested from the tops of tall trees, the trunk is actually the base of an enormous leaf stalk attached to the underground root system. This technically means banana trees are herbs and their fruit are berries. The banana is also one of the most important parts of the great spice interchange between the New and Old Worlds, joining other precious spices like nutmeg and cloves. It was the trade in these spices between China and Europe that helped create the Silk Road. And it was the severing of this trade by the growing Muslim Middle East that forced the Spanish to hire an Italian navigator called Columbus to seek out a new route to the East Indies. Columbus, of course, thought he had done exactly that when he sailed west across the Atlantic and found the islands that would eventually be called the West Indies. Bananas are arguably one of the first fruits to be cultivated by humans, and all the known popular eating varieties, including the Cavendish, are from one single species, Musa acuminate. Bananas were known to the Romans. They were cultivated in Africa for well over 2,000 years, and are most famous for their presence in the Caribbean. But make no mistake, bananas are recent arrivals to these locations. During the Ice Age, ocean levels were so low it was possible to walk from Queensland to New Guinea. And this greater continent was called Sahul. This is continental Australia's technical name, and why Australia can claim to be an island, as it is the largest island of the former, larger continent of Sahul. This explains why modern New Guinea and Queensland share so many species. Both have echidnas, cassowaries, and a variety of plants, including the oldest wild banana varieties in the world. Archaeological digs in several swamps and semi-fossil deposits contain evidence of bananas being cultivated on New Guinea for at least 10,000 years. These early varieties were not likely grown for their fruit, but for other uses. Their leaves help make shelters and can be used for cooking. Their fibrous stems shredded to make rope or weaved into cloth. At some point, New Guinea was visited by traders from southern Asia, and one of the plants they took home with them were bananas. It was most likely in Indonesia where a hybrid version was grown with edible fruit. And from here this variation spread throughout Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and finally into Europe. There are literally hundreds of wild banana species in New Guinea, with 3 more known to occur naturally in Queensland. 2 of these are shared between both regions, Musa banksii and Musa jackii. But the third endemic Queensland species, Musa fitzelani, is now considered extinct. The most likely species to originally be shared internationally was Musa banksia, as genes from the wild species have been found in African bananas. This sort of research has also led to the opinion that there were 2 separate immigration of banana species from Sahul, one east and the other west. The western migration led to the most prolific and eaten bananas, such as the plantains and the Cavendish, while the eastern migration led to less common Pacific Ocean varieties, like the Fay. These are often an orange colour and were cultivated from a different New Guinea wild species, like Musa maclay, and likely travelled with Polynesian explorers as they moved throughout the Pacific. The presence of the Fae was recorded by the world's most famous naturalist, Charles Darwin, who sailed through the Pacific in 1835 on the HMS Beagle. While visiting Tahiti, Darwin noted, "On each side of the ravine there were great beds of the mountain banana covered with ripe fruit. Many of these plants were from 20 to 25 feet high and from 3 to 4 in circumference." It was the naturalists sailing with Captain Cook on the Endeavour voyage who recorded the Tahitians called the fruit Fae. Joseph Banks and Daniel Solander also noted there were between 5 to 23 varieties of banana used on the island. Today, bananas are the single most cultivated fruit in the world, eaten by the young, the old, and everyone in between. They can be found in bread, cereals, salads, roasted, or eaten plain by almost every human society on the planet. Not bad for a little inedible berry that once grew in prehistoric Australia. And now for an important part of the history of the banana. In Australia, it's widely known that lolly bananas, or banana flavoured candies for my American listeners, taste nothing like eating a real banana. Well, it's been explained there's a very simple reason for this. They actually do taste like eating bananas, not just the Cavendish banana that we all devour by the millions every day all over the world. Up until 70 years ago, the world's eating banana wasn't the Cavendish, but the Gross Michael, or the Big Mike. Before he explored Australia and helped create the first map of the continent, French naturalist Nicolas Bourdin carried a few corms of this banana from Southeast Asia, depositing them at a botanical garden on the Caribbean island of Martinique. In 1835, French botanist Jean-Francois Pouillat collected specimens from Bourdin's trees and transplanted them from Martinique to Jamaica. The Big Mike was soon grown on massive plantations in Honduras, Costa Rica, and elsewhere in Central America. This variety became the dominant export banana to Europe and North America. But in the 1950s, Panama disease, a wilt caused by the fungus Fusarium oxborum, attacked and then wiped out most of the Gross Michael plantations in Central America, though it did not wipe it out completely as it's often reported. The Gross Michael still exists today, but only in small numbers, and only grown on non-infected lands. By the 1960s, the few Gross Michael bananas that were still being produced were simply not grown in numbers that could meet the world's demands, so banana plantations began cultivating a different species, Musa acumen, the Cavendish. And this became the dominant species we all eat today. Now the story is, if you want to know what a Gross Michael tastes like, grab yourself a lolly banana, as the artificial banana flavour used in candies and baking was created back when the Gross Michael was the world's top banana. However, recent research has punched a banana-sized hole in this story. It would seem that the artificial flavour of bananas was created at least a decade before bananas of any sort became popular or grown in numbers enough to start the industry we know today. So sorry to say, it seems the story is a myth, and that the fake banana taste just happens to taste vaguely like real bananas. And now for the really bad news. It turns out the Cavendish isn't as invincible as we'd hoped, and recently a similar disease has begun attacking this banana as well. Huge plantations are being lost to the blight, and tragically it's already been transported all over the world. In the very near future, we may not have any bananas left, and it seems we cannot just hold off for a while and replant, as the disease seems to be able to go dormant and survive in the soil for years and years after any sort of banana was grown in it. There are moves to try and save the banana, with plantations being started in the remotest region on the planet, Western Australia, where it's hoped this isolation can kill the disease away until a cure can be found. But that is a big if. So there you go. That's a quick history of the banana, a fruit that first evolved in Sahul, the prehistoric continent that contained Australia and New Guinea. That at some point in the last 1,000 years or so, the fruit was collected and cultivated, where it spread across the planet before coming under attack by a blight, with the world's most popular species, the Gross Michael, all but going extinct. And today our modern banana species, the Cavendish, is also under serious threat. So I hope you enjoyed that. And like and subscribe to the channel because we've always got more fascinating stuff coming out. And if you could, check on the links below for one of my books. I'm sure you'll find something really enjoyable to read. There's murder mysteries, there's histories of comic books, and I've got a great science fiction horror story there in Brotherhood of the Dragon. And I'll talk to you later.